All right, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Time 7:02. Let's jump right into schedule items. First item was a carryover from our previous meeting. It's a National Grid poll petition for Andover Street and River Road. Because this is this is a public hearing, do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion over second. Okay, and because this is virtual, we have to do a roll call vote. So how do you vote? Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. I do believe we have representation. David, are you with us? So what we'll do is let's open up to David, explain, let's explain to the residents again where this is Andover Street and River Road. I do believe Mr. Kratman is along with our town engineer visited the site with the resident that had some questions. So why don't we open up to David first? Dave, you have that red microphone, my friend. That's all. And I would ask if whoever's not talking, please hit the red microphone. Usually, David, it's in the far right-hand corner, kind of up in the right-hand section. Let me see if I have the Cape Power. Brian Dorton, can you do you have the power to unmute David?
I can't, Mr. Chairman, but I did just send him an unmute request, so that should pop up on his screen, and he should be able to.
Okay, no worries. We'll get there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting for him to come on, I can give you an update of what we were doing while we were out there. Myself, town engineer, met with representatives from Mass DOT that are overseeing the project. We took a walk through the site. There was some confusion on some of where the poles were going to be relocated. One of the business owners was concerned that the pole would be in front of the sign. It turns out it's going to be a guide wire that actually goes to the pole. The reason for the relocation of the poles is because of the realignment of the driveways. River Road and Andover Road are going to be realigned with the where Walgreens is. Their driveway is going to shift. So where Walgreens driveway is going to shift over to it aligns with the, so it'll be a four-way intersection. There'll be a left turning lane that'll go out to go down River Road. So that will allow that to happen. And so the utilities that are across the street where there is no pole, where Walgreens is, there's another pole going in there. So that's why the pole is going on. I met with Representative Plunkett. I met with the owner of the property, Mr. Sullivan. After going through the plans, they were fine with what was going on. And there was discussions actually about them actually installing a new sign because the sign they have on their property is kind of outdated. And they were talking about going to the planning board and maybe installing a new sign. But everybody seemed to be happy. It made sense. There was some confusion that I had where the poles were moving back where I didn't see there was a pole, but it's the poles across the street that are on like the mobile site that's across the street. Those are actually the ones that are going 10 feet back as they're adding new sidewalks on this area and they're widening the intersection for the turning lane. So that's the reasoning for it. So everything has a reason, and you know, everybody seemed to be happy with what was going on after the meeting.
Okay, I think David's still having some technical difficulties. Is Mr. Walsh, are you also on for National Grid?
Yeah, I'm Peter Walsh from TRC representing National Grid, and what he just said is true. That's exactly the scope of the job, and They are doing some major work out there, which is good, and I'm glad the customer at 910 doesn't really have any issues.
Okay. I mean, I'll open it up to the board. David, I think you're good. I think Mr. Kratman and Mr. Walsh covered it. We had some concerns just to recap. One of the residents had some concerns where the poles were going to be located, but again, they worked that out. So what I'd like to do, I just want to see if we have any residents or the same resident on the line, Mr. Dornan.
We have no callers, Mr. Chairman, but we are a good minute behind tonight.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We do believe we resolved the issue, so I think it's safe to say I'd like to maybe close the public hearing. I think we can proceed to take a vote, and God forbid that we have a resident to call, especially from 910. I think we can backtrack. Is that fair?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing with the stipulation if one of the property owners of Butts calls in, there was a delay, we can reopen the meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman? Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Questions from the board? I think I'm satisfied. Again, Mr. Kratman, thank you very much. And Mr. Montori, thank you for sending representation from the town to meet with the resident. Any questions from the board? Mr. Walsh, any questions on your side? Are you good?
I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. That being said, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the poll petition as submitted.
I'll second that.
You have a motion, and I'll take the second from Ms. Stronach. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. David, you're back. David, we're good. David, we're good. Anything to add?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience waiting for me. I just got it to work somewhere with my iPad or something. I've been working the last couple of days. I think it's on the fritz or something, but thank you very much. Happy Christmas and happy holidays. So we're all set to just pass as I came back in here.
David, I believe I saw you out there on the site today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was out there for about 10, 15 minutes. You caught me right at that window, huh?
Yeah.
You saw me there? Yeah.
Very good. All right, Dave, I'm sure we'll talk to you early next year.
All right, yeah, happy New Year. And, yep, thanks. Same to you and everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, very good. So the next, moving on here, we kind of have a short agenda. I know we've been meeting for quite some time over the last month and a half as residents. And Mr. Brian, I'm sure we have a little bit of delay. So why don't we move on to new business? And if any residents would like to call in for public comment, we'll await that. So let's jump right to new business. And it's that time of year where we approve all the different licenses that we hand out to all the different businesses. And again, I'm sharing the agenda: the liquor license, the amusement license, the entertainment license, pool license, and class license approval, auto, and the common victor license as well. So before we get started, Mr. Martori, I just want to jump to you quickly because typically we asked, has everyone on regarding these licenses that we're about to either approve or deny, are they all caught up with their taxes for 2020?
They are, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so no issues across the board?
There are no issues.
Okay. At this time, before we make approvals, I want to see if any of the board members would like to speak. I know we had some conversation about how we could potentially get creative as a board to see how we may help, through this tough time for businesses or certain businesses, how we might be flexible with license fees. So at this time, would any of the board members like to speak before we go through the approvals?
On mute. Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you would, I'd like to make some suggestions. I've been taking the time to go over other municipalities around us, other cities and towns, talking with representatives from the LRTA that are on the board with me, who serve, that are other selectmen or aldermen or other city councilors, and see what's going on in the other communities. And I've taken time to talk to some of the businesses. A lot of businesses in our town are struggling, and there's a lot of new regulations that are coming in from the state government. about what people can do and what they can't do, early closing and other things as we're all aware of. And some of the licenses that we're set to approve, we approve each year and we charge a fee from the town. But the town is asking for a fee from a business to pay, and the state is putting a mandate on either limitations of how long you can use these licenses or not be able to use them at all. Particularly amusement licenses, which are video games or those type of amusements, or the claw boxes and other things that you play at MVP, Warmistead Lanes, a couple of other stores around. I think Papagino's has a couple of them. Well, those licenses were off limits during COVID. You had to close them down for good reason. They didn't want people touching, keeping the social distancing and those type of things. And then we have also other licenses that are entertainment licenses, where you weren't allowed to have bands, you weren't allowed to have disc jockeys, you weren't allowed to have that type of entertainment. And we're asking somebody to pay for, the town's asking somebody to pay for something, and the state's saying you can't use it. I understand that we have to do our job, but government is government, and I can see from a business's point of view that it's still taxes one way or another coming through, and it can be frustrating, and they've been struggling. I want them to know that they've been heard from this town, and do whatever we can to listen to them. And I'd like to make a motion that some of these fees, and I'll go through each one as we go along if you'd like, or we can discuss it further. But I'd like to have a discussion about either waiving fees or reducing some fees where it makes sense in our community. And I'll just stop right there and let the rest of the board have a discussion.
Board members like to speak before we go through each line item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Please.
It's a really timely and very interesting option that Mr. Kratman brings forward. During our NIMCOG meetings in, I think, October, Chelmsford brought up, it was either in October or November, Chelmsford brought up that they were reducing their licenses for a number of different, different options like entertainment and amusement. And to try and give some of their businesses a little bit of relief. It's an important gesture. It might offset some of their insurance costs. It's not going to make up for the business that they've lost over this year, but it is something that is in line with what some of our peer communities are doing, and I think it's worth consideration by this board. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Montour, you wouldn't happen to have, I know we have some documents. There's anything you could share now or prepared to share, or we can share maybe next meeting, just to highlight some of the stuff that Mr. Kratman might be referring to through our discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things. So in total, the revenue we generate from licenses is $122,125. I know some of the licenses that were looked at, specifically the all alcoholic pouring and the beer and wine pouring licenses, the two of them combined generate $81,000 in revenue. There was discussion amongst myself and some of the members about the amusement device licenses that generate $7,350, and entertainment licenses generate $575. So, those are a bulk of our license revenues. I've been in communication with other town managers on a listserv, and every town has really approached it differently. Some have waived them completely, those particular fees. Others, 50% reduction in fees. Others, and I would say a majority, have done nothing. So it really is up to each individual community has addressed it differently, what they believe the impact to their businesses have been. So, I sent the board what a reduction would be of 25, 50, and 75%, or if you wanted to do 100%. But it's really, if the board, if we do reduce the revenue, I believe we'll be able to make up some of it in some revenues that have been coming in stronger than we anticipated. So the ability is there, but it's really a decision that board needs to make based on the impact they think the businesses have seen over the last 8 months and into the future.
Okay, just a quick thing. You said the amusement license were roughly about $7K.
$7,350. Yep.
$7,350. And how about the entertainment license, Mr. Montori?
$575.
Okay, I'll let the board chime in. I mean, for me, those two are glaring. I think those two are obviously impacted. And again, this is tough because it's at the state level. It's not like we're shutting it down, but I agree a lot with Mr. Kratman said and what Ms. Wellman has stated. I will also offer, some businesses got stimulus, a first round of stimulus. I do believe on the horizon, we hopefully sooner than later, these businesses will have the opportunity for a second wave of stimulus here to help through this pandemic. Mr. Montori, is it fair to say that all of the licenses for 2020, they're all paid? So if we decide whatever way that we want to decide, we'll have to do some type of crediting, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the license fees, because of how we've done it in the past, but also because of the way the ABCC wants the information to come in, they're all paid very early on in the month of December, end of November. So everyone has paid. We've only received a couple of phone calls asking if adjustments will be made. And we told them that the board would be discussing it, and we would do a refund if needed. So again, if the board chooses to take action, we could easily refund whatever fees are needed.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board before we get started? Ms. Stronach?
No, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to ask that the town manager repeat those, so I appreciated that you needed them repeated as well. I think those, that's $8,000 in fees. I do think that stands out for me. I too hope that there is stimulus money that will be coming to all of our town businesses to help with their economic plight, is one would call it, through this pandemic. And I appreciate this discussion.
Any other comments? And again, we'll just take it line by line. Mr. Brian Dick?
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, I think I'm thinking on the same lines as you. I think the amusement, the entertainment, those are like a no-go, which I could see some relief there. I think with, as Mr. Stronach pointed out and you pointed out, there is some stimulus that could be coming. And since the town manager pointed out that they're paid to date, I don't know if I want to make any decisions tonight outside of the amusement and the entertainment. Me personally, I'd like to kind of hold off and see what type of stimulus comes down the pipe from the government, because I know businesses are able to tap into that. And, just to keep in mind that anything that we do does affect the bottom line, the budget. And I appreciate Mr. Montori, saying that there are some other line items that are coming in stronger, but I think, with the kind of where we are right now with government towards the end of the year, since everything's paid up, I'd like to take a kind of a wait and see approach on some of the other licenses that we've already issued and paid. So that's just my comment. I'd like to do a wait and see approach on the stimulus, but maybe tonight, the amusements, I know there's two businesses that have been deeply impacted on that side of the house in Tewksbury. And then the entertainment is small, but a wait and see approach. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Please.
So I think that for a lot of our restaurants that have had to close down or operate out of their parking lot, or have their hours shut down to, they have to close at 9 or stop serving at 9, it's tremendously impacted their business. As for potential stimulus, I hope that that's true, but I think there's a lot of people who've been waiting. A lot of the stimulus that came through before with the PPP went to companies that had corporate help to get their stimulus. A lot of small businesses couldn't even get a banker on the phone to get what they needed. It was very difficult for a lot of small businesses. The other thing, I think that there may be some reason to act tonight is if, and I don't know if Mr. Montoya, I just had this idea, is this something that we could cover with our CARES money if the businesses apply for a reduction? If we offer that to them, can they, just like some towns are doing other kinds of assistance, but we have to, that money runs out December 30th. So I'm wondering if we can offset a reduction with CARES Act money. So I just now thought of this idea, so I, haven't had time to vet it personally, but if that's something that we can do, that's something, we're not going to lose that in terms of the town, but if we don't find a way to connect that CARES money, then it can't be used for anybody. It might be useful in this case. And then my final comment is, according to Mr. Montoya's figures, a 50% reduction in the all alcohol and the beer and wine is $40,500. And, I don't think that is a lot of money considering the relief it may provide to some of our small businesses when it relates to our bottom line. We will be looking at budget issues. I don't know that $40,000 is a huge hit to what we're talking about in terms of our budget. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just put a couple more comments on there. As part of the stimulus package that came through, I also serve on the Chamber of Commerce, and we did a number of videos with economic development out of Boston, and a number of we've had national, state people come on, and we had a lot of local businesses contact us. For those businesses, for those businesses to qualify, they'd have to have a full-time employee there. And for each full-time employee, there was up to $10,000. Well, when you're talking about restaurants and bars, the majority of the restaurants and bars do not have full-time employees. Most of them hire people on part-time basis. A lot of it has to do with insurance purposes, but you may have a waitress that works 2 or 3 days a week. You may have a bartender that works 2 or 3 days a week. You may have wait staff that works 2 or 3 days a week. But very few restaurants and bars have somebody that works 5 days a week, 40 hours. It's just the way of the business, the way they work. And so when they were trying to qualify for some of these loans, they did not qualify. So even though they applied for some of those things, they could not get it. And so the original stimulus that went through only helped the bigger businesses that had full-time employees. And yeah, they would help the bigger businesses, but the small restaurants, that are really hurting and that are hiring the local people in our community, they're the ones that are giving the jobs to the kids and the people that are working in our town. They're really struggling trying to keep their door open. And I think, that's something that we really, that's my perspective, I think we should also take a look at as well. I have no problem if people want to look off, delay it, but I think I've looked at the numbers, I've looked to see what they've gotten, I've seen what the other communities have done. And, like I said, they need the help, and anything we could do, I think it would be a big gesture on our part that we hear them when they're at their worst. And that's my perspective of it. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Ms. Stronach.
thank you so much. First of all, tonight is a night of rich discussion again, and I really appreciate everybody being so forthcoming with their reflections and reaching out and doing the homework that we are all required to do. And I would like to just say that I don't see this as a wait and see what comes down the road. I see this as a measured approach for me to look at the entertainment and the other license that we spoke about, and the amusement license, the amusement device license, as a measured approach. While I appreciate the small businesses and the small restaurants and all of that. I think across our town, we see our businesses struggling. And what I have repeatedly said when we're talking about finances is that I am very worried about what is coming for next year's budget and the budget, subsequent budget, because while we may have successfully navigated this year's budget, I am concerned with the next two budget seasons that we're going to have to put forward. And I know that when we're talking about $1 million budget, I think our budget, what is 81 million? Is that what it is, Mr. Montori?
Yes. Yeah, I think it was higher than that.
Okay.
100.
Sorry, thank you. That $40,000 doesn't seem like a whole heck of a lot of money, but I believe that we're going to have some very difficult decisions to make. And I think it would behoove us to take a measured approach. And while I agree that our businesses need relief, it is difficult for me to pick and choose who we get those to. These two licenses that we're talking about, and for me, the amusement and devices and the entertainment, they have really been completely shut down. And I understand and I certainly empathize with the smaller business groups, and maybe we would be better off trying to spend money to help those businesses apply and maximize, because at the end of the day, that 40,000 spread over however many licenses may not be enough relief to make a dent to begin with. So maybe our resources would be better spent helping them apply, given what Ms. Wellman's comments were about them having to find ways and find legal advice to do that. So I just want to say, for me, this is not delaying. For me, this is a measured approach. I do think that we need to find ways to assist in supporting our economic development and supporting our local businesses. And certainly those businesses do employ our residents. But I think we need to do that in a way that makes sense, and that it doesn't look like we're handpicking, one group over another. So I certainly think it's something that we should continue to look at. But for me, I do want to see what is on the horizon, given that we're having a new administration coming in, and hopefully maybe find a better way to support our businesses that might impact them more than waiving or reducing a fee.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stronach. Okay, I think I'll close on this. Like, I think we're all on the same page. Whatever we can do to help our local businesses, we're going to do. I think we have a little bit of time. The fee is paid. This is going to be a work in progress. I think it's a no-brainer for the two that we talked about, the amusement and the entertainment. Talk about handcuffed, literally handcuffed. And I just want to revisit this. It's not off the table, but like I said, I'm not an expert on stimulus. I'm not an expert on local businesses, which ones get funds or not get funds. I think we have a little bit of time to sort that out, to be calculated. That's all. So with that being said, why don't we just go line by line? Let's take a motion on each, and we'll entertain any motion that you all want to come up with. So why don't we start with the liquor license approvals?
Mr. Chairman, can I just jump in on the liquor licenses quickly? This isn't in regard to the fees. We had 2 liquor applications that were not returned. So when you approve the liquor licenses tonight, can you approve all of them with the exception of Saffron Indian Grill and the Knights of Columbus? Both of those did not return any paperwork, and we've reached out numerous times. If we get paperwork in before the end of the year, you can take it up in January.
And if we don't get paperwork back?
Then they'll lose their licenses.
Revoked, okay.
No, just not renewed.
Yeah, they're not
Right.
renewed.
That was Saffron and Knights of Columbus, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all the liquor licenses presented with the exception of Saffron and the Knights of Columbus.
Second,
Motion, do I have a second?
second,
Second by Mr. Brian Dick. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
aye,
Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, 5-0. Common victual license approvals. Mr. Montori, any caveats for that one?
Sorry about that. You can approve all of them with the exception of Saffron Indian Grill.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve all of the common victual licenses presented with the exception of Saffron Indian Grill.
second,
Motion is second by Mr. Brian Dick. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick,
aye,
Mr. Kratman,
Aye.
Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Third license to consider, amusement license approval. Mr. Montori, any caveats?
Again, we haven't heard from the Knights of Columbus on this either, so you might want to withhold that one.
That being said, do we have a motion from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amusement license approvals and waive the fee for the license, amusement license for the applicants.
I'll
Second.
that.
I have a motion, a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
aye,
Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Fourth license, entertainment license approval. Mr. Montori, any caveats?
I do not see any, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, once again, I'd like to make a motion to approve the entertainment license and waive the fees for the entertainment license that have been submitted.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Ms. Wellman. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
aye,
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Pool table license approvals. Mr. Montori?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to same thing. I think that's pretty much kind of like under the amusement part of it. I think we only have, Mr. Montori, could you correct us, for the pool table licenses? I think we only have a few of them, correct?
Yes, we only have the Knights of Columbus and the Elks, and we don't even charge a fee for them, for those
Yeah.
two of those.
Right.
So I think, Mr. Chairman, they're okay the way they are.
I think we've waived that in the past because they're nonprofit organizations. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the pool table licenses and waive the fee as we have in the past for nonprofits.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Stronach. Mr. Kratman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
aye,
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Last but not least, we have class license approvals.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the class license approvals as submitted.
second,
I have a motion, a second by Mr. Brian Dick. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
aye,
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. And I do believe, I know we had a light agenda. However, like I said, we've been meeting frequently in the last month and a half. So I believe, Mr. Montori, do you have anything on your side?
Mr. Chairman, before you close that out, can I just make one other suggestion that we do?
Sure.
We have a lot of businesses in this town, and I'd like to hear from them. So if there are certain businesses that believe for some reason that the COVID has economically caused them some great hardship, If they would like to write into the selectmen, we review documentation from the businesses. If they would like to submit something to us and tell us about how COVID has affected their business, there may be somebody out there that we're not aware of, and that it's something has really affected that we just haven't heard. And that was part of the discussion that, you know, instead of picking and choosing, let's hear from some of these businesses. So if there is a business that's going through a hardship, submit something to us. We're always open to listen to those appeals, and that may be something that we may be able to apply for through our delegation. These fees are all revenue to our town, and because of state guidelines, some of these licenses aren't worth as much. If you know, most of these licenses we've issued to usually 1 o'clock in the morning, and if a business has to close down at 9 o'clock, or cut down their table sizes, or cut down the number of people that are allowed in their establishment, that's a lot of revenue that we lost through these licenses, and it's not the typical license that we've issued. So if someone was to ask for a waiver of certain things, we could definitely go to our delegation and say, you know, the town is trying our best. We're working with the businesses, but we need help from the state. So if there is some sort of relief that comes to the state, that comes through, or the federal government sends something in, you know, that may be something that the town itself may be able to apply to offset some of these fees that we're losing. So if somebody would like to write in and contact us, I'd love to hear from them. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's fine. And just before we close on this note, listen, we're handcuffed at the local level. That's it. You know, just like the stormwater, unfunded mandate, fund it. Go ahead, Tewksbury, fund it. So I'll bring this on the agenda whenever we have to bring it up. If there's anything we can do, anything, we'll bring it up, we'll talk through it, and we'll get creative, you know, whether it's taxes, water, sewer, otherwise. We're going to be in the long haul here. Just drive up 38. Everybody's handcuffed. And it's just, if it was us, I'd be concerned, but it's the United States of America and beyond. So, you know, whatever we can do at our local level, we're going to do, and that's our commitment as a board. And that's it. So. All right. I think, like I said, our agenda's light because we've met a bunch of times. Mr. Montoya, do you have anything on your side?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, I think he was good. And I'm just looking. I think that brings us let's go to our board member reports. How about we start with Mr. Mark Kratman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of meetings. LRTA, we had a meeting last Thursday. Talked about a number of things that are happening in our community. Talking about how the MBTA is potentially cutting some of their services in the town surrounding us. I spoke strongly that we do not want any of our services reduced. The buses that go service our residents in the LRTA is either always in the top 3 on ridership that goes to our community. A lot of people depend on that to get them either to Lowell, to Gallagher Station, to Wilmington Station, to Market Basket, and ridership is slowly but surely increasing. So I advocated for absolutely no reduction in services for the town. And we also had some discussions about there's sanitizing machines that for some of the vans that we use at our senior center, and they're going to send us over some documentations that the town can purchase some machines that we can use on our vans that the seniors use, and we can purchase them through the town, and we can submit that documentation to the LRTA, and they'll reimburse the town for the purchase for the shuttles and things that are used for the taking the seniors on their trips and places, just to be safe to make sure those vehicles and everything's used properly. We also, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, we're working on adding additional bus shelters and maybe changing some of the routes around. Got a meeting with the town manager to discuss some of those, the town engineer to discuss some of the construction that's ongoing and how that may benefit the community. But I'm going to listen to what the recommendations are, and we'll bring it back to the board before any recommendations are made. But we're going to want to take a look at maybe if we could change some of the routes around to pick up more ridership and help more people. Particularly, we'd like to get one of the buses to get to the library. instead of going down East Street, maybe taking a left at Chandler, going out to the library, and then go the rest of 38 where there's a lot of different businesses, and stopping down at Pleasant Street, where a lot of people will be getting off from the high school, maybe taking buses to work or school, and helping those type of things, that maybe late riders, that type of thing. So we're keeping that into consideration. Economic development, I had a meeting last night. Unfortunately, because of technical difficulties, we weren't able to have it. I think everybody saw what happened at the schools with some of the bugs that were happening on computers. We were a victim of it, and we're going to have another meeting in the near future. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very much, Mr. Crabbe. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Brian, you're muted.
Yeah, because you definitely want to hear this. You don't want me on. No, but thank you for pointing that out. But anyway, I was here for the elementary building committee. I attended, and I want to thank Mrs. Anne Marie Strana for her leadership. I thought it was a well-oiled machine. And I know you've jumped into that post midterm, and I think you're doing a great job. And there's a lot of great people on that. Mr. Montori included, our superintendent. So they're doing great stuff, and there's a lot of activity down there. They're doing all the great, strong work for the town, for the residents, for that new school. So it's great to see. And then it's great to see the new fire station popping up too. So that's about it.
Thank you. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you. I have a few items. Well, NIMCOG is not meeting this month. They met last month. One of the bigger discussions was on the Rourke Bridge replacement in Lowell. It's going to be traffic impacts for years, and it's going to impact people in Tewksbury who go in and out of Lowell. And as Mr. Kratman already said, the MBTA changes and commuter rail changes are really impacting a lot of our residents here in town. I know folks who take earlier trains who have had those trains eliminated. So it's really very difficult for a number of our residents. So that's a challenge. And then there was some discussion also about the Home Depot facility that's being built on Woburn Street. That's really exciting in terms of job creation for Tewksbury in our area. So that's a big win, and they're going through their MEPA process. I think I mentioned that before. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask you for our January meeting, one of our January meetings, if you can bring up the general bylaw committee so we can appoint some members to that committee. You've had a number of applications, and I'll make another pitch. And if my fellow board members will also consider making pitches to their constituencies, such as they are, so that we can get some more folks who might be interested, and we can fill up that committee and get working on that. There's a lot to do there. I wanted to let the board know that I've been working on the draft statement for the Tewksbury Human Rights Advisory Committee. That's sitting now with Town Council, and then we'll bring it back when it's been vetted by department heads for all of you to read and absorb before we discuss it at a future meeting. And I'm not sure exactly what meeting that is, but the work is continuing on that effort. I'm sure you wanted to know. And then I just wanted to take a moment and praise and thank our town staff, all of our town staff across all of our departments who are working really hard during COVID to do contact tracing, to deliver education, to manage our schools, to manage our DPW. It's great to drive in the center of town and see the common all lit up, and to see that the work of the town is continuing, at fully, and it's getting done in spite of this terrible pandemic. And people are our staff is really working really hard. So I wanted to thank them for that, and take a moment to wish everybody happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Very well said. Very good. How about Ms. Stronach?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Elementary Building Committee has met twice since our last meeting. We met to review some change orders. I want to thank the building committee members for their strong advocacy and fiduciary responsibility of that project. There's a lot of very rich discussion going on, and they are really holding our project manager and our construction team and our architects very accountable. And that makes for a better project for all of us. So I want to thank everyone for their work on that, because it is a heavy lift, that project. I don't envy the people on the bylaw committee, because that too is going to be a very heavy lift. So, but as I was listening to you, Mr. Chairman, after Mr. Kratman's asking to speak to representatives, I just wanted to take a minute to night of gratitude here at the Board of Selectmen, to thank you for your leadership in steering this committee to those levels and looking and saying that we are going to do everything we can as a board, and kind of restating for everybody what all of our goals are, which is to do the best we can for whatever, whether it's local businesses, whether it's for our seniors, whether it's for our students. And I just, as you were speaking, it just hit a chord with me. And I just want to thank you for that strong leadership that you bring to us every week and place on the agenda. I just want to take that opportunity to thank you for that. I also want to say that, you know, we're in the season of light and Festival of Lights in Hanukkah. So I want to wish people a happy Hanukkah. I too want to say Merry Christmas. I am welcoming 2021 with a lot of hope and optimism. And with that said, I can't leave tonight's meeting without saying that it's been put out in our community that our superintendent and assistant superintendent have been given a vote of no confidence. And I cannot leave tonight's meeting without saying that I applaud the work of the school department during this pandemic. And similar to what Ms. Wellman just said, and I think I talked about it at last meeting, the work that every single town employee is doing is enormous right now. And doesn't matter whether they're working remotely or they're working in their offices or whatever, the amount of work that's being done through this pandemic by employees across this town, and specifically to the management of the school department, I just can't say I value it tremendously. And I think that those efforts, there's no easy solutions, and we have to just settle for second best right now. And sometimes second best isn't good enough, and I get that. But as you said, we're all handcuffed. And I just needed to say that out loud, that I appreciate everyone's efforts, and specifically to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, in the amount of work and efforts that they're putting in on behalf of our students every day. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good stuff. As we always say, teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. You guys, we all know that, and it starts with the leadership from Mr. Montori. I just want to give a little shout out to Mr. Kratman and Mr. Kratman actually and Mr. Jim Lyons. He donated a tree, and we have a nice ice sculpture down at Town Center. So I think we're going to get some snow. So maybe go take a peek while you can. But maybe it was Miss Wellman down there. The lights are amazing. It's awesome. So even in this, even in not so positive times, it's pretty cool to drive by there with a smile. So that's cool. So, Mr. Kratman, thank you for your reference, and Mr. Jim Lyons as well for donating the Christmas tree. And last but not least, I think I know I'm forgetting something, so we'll close on a positive note. So Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all. And I guess just one final point, I guess, is around the residents. We mentioned about the businesses hurting, and tonight the agenda was around the businesses and the licenses, but make no mistake about it, each and every meeting we have is around the residents as well, because residents are hurting with no jobs, and so we know it's tough out there. It's going to be the next 12 to 24 months. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an uphill battle. We have the right man in charge, and Mr. Montori, to look at that budget and to clamp down, which that's what we do so we know it's going to be tough, but I know tonight's focus was the business, but we never forget about the residents as well, because it's going to be a little rocky road here, based on the economy and this pandemic. So, with that being said, let's end on a positive note. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all. With that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Final roll call vote of the night. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.